All right, boys and girls, Chapter 9. The Diaper Gang Knows. We're splashing around in the water at the little beach at the end of Duval Street. It's the only way to cool off on a hot day. And every day is hot here. I wade up to my waist in a bathing suit that Aunt Minnie found for me. A beaming boy comes running up. "It's Ira," Kermit exclaims. "I'm back, fellas," the boy announces like a returning hero. He's got a mop-like head of curly red hair. He looks like little orphan Annie without the red dress. "When'd you get in from Miami?" Beans asked. "Last night. It took us forever to get home. The ferry ran aground." "Poppy told me that when the highway's finished, we won't need no ferries," Kermit says. "Can't be soon enough for me," Ira says. He strips off his shirt and dives into the water. "What were you doing in Miami?" I ask him when he resurfaces. He gives his wet head a shake. "Who are you?" "I'm just some cousin from New Jersey," I say before Beans can. Ira says, "My little brother needed an operation, so we had to take him to the hospital there." "What's he sick from?" I ask. "Dumbness," Porkchop says. Eggy lit some firecrackers and wouldn't believe me when I told him that he needed to throw them, Ira says. He blew his thumb off and his pinky, too. "How's Eggy doing?" Kermit asked. "He's got so many of my aunts worrying over him, he can't fart without one of them jumping," Ira says. "So what'd I miss? Have we had a lot of babies?" "The diaper gang was Ira's idea in the first place," Kermit tells me. "I'm the brains of the operation," Ira says. "I wouldn't brag about that," I say. "We've been busy," Bean says, "but we're gonna need a new wagon soon." "Where are we going to get enough dough for a new wagon?" Ira asks. Everyone's quiet, and then Kermit wiggles his eyebrows and says, "The Shadow knows." The boys are always quoting the Shadow. He's a mysterious narrator from a crime radio show. I like the Shadow as much as any other kid, but you'd think if he knew so much, he'd give some advice to President Roosevelt. Far as I can tell, he needs all the help he can get. A pretty lady with a broad-brimmed hat walks by with a handsome man. "Porkchop, Beans, are you boys having a pleasant summer?" she asks. Beans looks frozen, but Porkchop swallows and mumbles, "Yes, ma'am, Miss Sugar Apple." "See you two in the fall," she says, and then strolls off. "Not if I'm lucky," Beans says. "Your teacher?" I ask. Kermit says, "Porkchop and Beans got in big trouble with Miss Sugar Apple." "What did you do?" I ask. "Nothing," Bean says. "They stole the answer sheet for a test from Miss Sugar Apple's desk," Kermit says. "We didn't steal it," Porkchop says. "We borrowed it." They had to stay after school every day for the last month and write, "I will not steal" on the chalkboard 200 times, Kermit says. "Guess you won't steal next time," I say. Bean sneers. "Next time, we won't get caught." After we finish swimming, we have a cut-up. A cut-up is something these comp kids do every chance they get. Each kid brings whatever they can find lying around or hanging on a tree. Sugar apple, banana, mango, pineapple, alligator pear, guava, cooked potatoes, even raw onions. They take a big bowl and they cut it all up and season it with Old Sour, which is made from key lime juice, salt, and hot peppers. Then they pass it around with a fork and everybody takes a bite. It's the strangest fruit salad I've ever had, but it's tasty. "Listen, fellas," Ira says, spearing a piece of potato. "I've been thinking." "About how to get us a new wagon?" Beans asks. Ira shakes his head. "I met this kid named Lester in Miami, and he told me about TikToking." "What's that?" Porkchop says. "All you need to do is have a rock and a string," Ira says, lowering his voice to a conspiratorial whisper. "It goes like this." I don't think they're talking about the TikToking that you guys do. Ira explains that you take a rock and you tie it to a long length of string, long enough to reach across a roof. Then stake out a house and wait until everyone's asleep. You throw the rock over the house so that it lands on the opposite side near a window. and then you tug on the string, and it scrapes the window and makes a scary sound, as if a bony hand is trying to get into the house. The folks inside are scared so bad they scream their heads off, and you take off running. And the best part, Ira finishes, no one knows who did it. What do you think, fellas? I like it, Porkchop says. Who should we TikTok first? The evil glint appears in Bean's eyes. Miss Sugar Apple, he says. It's late, and I'm lying in bed listening to mosquitoes buzz. The night air is thick with a sweet scent of frangipani. Smokey's curled into my side, her paws twitching in her sleep like she's dreaming of chasing mice. Archie told me once that what he really sells is dreams. Nobody needs fancy face cream. A lady buys it because she wants to feel young, or find a husband, or feel prettier than her neighbor, he told me. All I do is sell her that dream, bottled up nice and tidy in a cream, or maybe a new hat, or some brushes. But what if she doesn't have a dream, I asked him. Princess, he said, laughing, everybody's got a dream. I've almost fallen asleep when a scream shatters through the quiet, and I know that the diaper gang has struck. The Compton Telegraph kicks in the next morning. When I go outside, the diaper gang boys are sitting on the porch talking excitedly. That was hilarious, pal, Porkchop chortles. She screamed so loud they heard her in Cuba. Jelly comes walking down the street. You kids hear about the ghost at Miss Sugar Apple's place? Beans feigns ignorance. What's that, Jelly? Miss Sugar Apple says a ghost was trying to get into her house. A ghost? Beans asked. Scared her nearly to death, she said. Gee whiz, Beans says. I sure do hope Miss Sugar Apple's okay. She's our favorite teacher. Jelly walks into his tiny house and Beans grins. This is the bee's knees, fellas, he says. Porkchop starts laughing and says in a low, menacing voice, Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men? The diaper gang knows. Pudding starts crying and I sniff. I don't know about the hearts of men, but I'd bet there's something evil lurking in this diaper, I say. Over the next few days, the diaper gang TikToks the houses of various folks who they think have wronged them, including a preacher, a store clerk who never gave out free gumballs, some man who yelled at them for picking his Spanish limes, and a girl named Lucy who sat in front of Beans at school and wouldn't let him cheat off her test. But I think spending all night scaring folks is starting to take its toll, because when I go down for breakfast on the third day, Beans and Kermit are practically asleep at the table. Late night, Shadow? I ask. Beans glares at me. There's a knock at the door and Ira comes tromping in. He's got dark circles under his eyes, too. We got babies, he says, and Beans stands up and walks out after him, Kermit and me trailing behind. By early afternoon, everyone's drooping, and not one of the boys has any patience left for the crying babies. It's just me and Beans and Ira, and Kermit was only too happy to go home when Aunt Minnie hollered for him it's time to take a nap. I wish I had rheumatic fever so I could take a nap, Ira says. Pudding is crying in the wagon. Bean snaps at me and says, Oh, just pick him up, why don't you? I'm not in the diaper gang, I say. Who cares, Ira says with a yawn. We're beat. I pick up Pudding. He nuzzles his sweaty head into the bare skin of my neck and closes his eyes, his little fist tugging on my hair. I guess this is why they warn you about picking up babies. If he stayed quiet like this, I would never want to put him down. Porkchop comes limping down the lane. When he gets closer, I see that his knee is all torn up and raw looking. What happened to you? I ask him. He spits out the words, Too bad. Too Bad followed us when we went TikToking last night, Ira said. Porkchop tripped over him. How could you trip over him? I asked. I didn't see him. It was dark, Porkchop says. I hate that kid. Well, you didn't have to cry out so loud, Ira says, looking annoyed. The shadow's supposed to be mysterious. You almost got us caught. You see my leg? Yeah, it hurt, Porkchop says. The next afternoon, we're sitting around having a cut-up when Kermit comes hurtling down the lane, waving a newspaper. Fellas, he exclaims, we made the paper. The headlines shout, Key West cursed by weeping ghost. Weeping ghost, Porkchop says. What are they talking about? Read it, Beans orders, and Ira obliges. It's mysterious ghost haunting in the lanes of our fair town. Residents have reported strange going-ons of late. Miss Josephine Higgs of Pecan Lane is the most recent recipient of a ghostly visitation. I heard her knocking at the window, Miss Higgs said. I think she was trying to communicate with me. I wasn't trying to communicate with you, Porkchop says in an outrage. I was trying to scare you. Who is she anyway, I ask. My first grade teacher, he says with a scowl. Boy, you sure do hold a grudge, I say. Keep reading, Bean says. Ira continues. Miss Higgs believes the spirit may be the widow of a sailor who died at sea. I never heard such a sad sound as her weeping. She was just crying her heart out, the poor thing, Miss Higgs said. Ira finishes and looks up and everyone's quiet. Porkchop turns beet red. Maybe you'll get your own radio show, I say to Porkchop, just like the Shadow. Really? He asks. Sure, I say. You can call it The Crybaby.